I don't have a big agenda at all today. I really just wanted to, Brad was going to be on. I don't see that Brad is on. Brad contacted me earlier, oh, it's been a couple weeks ago, and said that he was talking to a coworker after a meeting, and the coworker had expressed some interest in Des Moines teachers in general and wanted to know, if there was any opportunity for that person to become involved in Des Moines teachers. And Brad said, "Hey, Kathy, what do you think if this person took my spot?" And I said, "Nice try, Brad. But first, if we could bring this person on and
Hey, John, it's Alan
allow
Goody.
her to come
Sorry
on
for
and
the
just
delayed
kind of
reply.
get
I was with Mark and
just a
Mark and
second.
Jeff.
If we could have Brad introduce this person to our group and learn a little bit more about Des Moines teachers and maybe become a little bit more familiar and see if there's interest there, we would be happy to have you. So with that, Brad, I'm going to turn it over to you to do introductions. And
Sure, yeah. So happy to introduce you guys to Lucy. Lucy is an actuarial student still, although she's a fellow now. So I'm not sure if we're calling her a student or what we call her anymore. But maybe as a way of background, I was in a team meeting recently sharing a story about my experiences in DMTRS. And Lucy followed up afterwards and was sort of like, "Hey, that sounds interesting. I'd like to get involved." And when you get a volunteer for activities like this, you got to say, "Come on in. Happy to have you." I mentioned Lucy is an actuary, so she's a fellow, so she's a full actuary now. Like I did way back in the day, she's also pursuing her CFA. I think she's passed level 2, took level 2. She's nodding, so that's good. But maybe I'll stop talking and let Lucy share a minute about herself, maybe. And then as Kathy was mentioning, the intention is to bring her up to speed, and if she's interested, bringing her on as sort of one of the citizen members of the committee, if she's interested, and you guys don't scare her away. And we'll look forward to her contributions going forward. But Lucy, do you want to talk about yourself for a minute, please?
Sure. Well, thanks for having me, everybody. My name is Lucy Inkenbauer, and I've been a principal for about 4 years. And like Brad said, I'm technically still in our actuarial student program, but passed all my actuarial exams now in FSA, and currently pursuing the CFA designation past level 2. So just sitting for level 3, hopefully in February. But yeah, Brad was telling me a little bit about the organization and kind of what you do, and it sounded very interesting, and just wanted to learn more about the organization and see if I'm able to help in any way.
great. Thank you, Lucy. And you will find that this plan is very unique and as far as pension plans go, and very, very unique as far as school systems go. And we currently have just gone through some significant changes, significant work toward looking at contribution structures, et cetera, and have just added a supplemental 401A program along with the DMTRS program. And that just took effect July 1, so very new. We're also currently working on a plan document review to try to make our plan document not only current, which is very important, but more easily understandable to laypersons, and making sure that we're following everything correct. And if we're not, making sure that if we've changed a procedure, that that's updated in our plan document. So that's kind of where we are right now. I'm going to quickly jump and I see that we have our friends from BTC on that do our investments for us. Guys, I don't know that there's anything on the agenda that you need to be on the call for, so cognizant of your time. If there's something that you're welcome to stay on, but I don't want you to feel like you have to be on, because I'm not sure that there's anything on this call that needs you guys this week.
Yeah, understood, Kathy. Thank you. We'll have the investment report ready shortly, and I'll be contacting you to get on the agenda for next time as usual, and we'll go through that. But just for today, just suffice to say, the equity market has improved significantly. The equity market, depending on how you want to measure, it's up more than 15% year to date. And investments, that's in positive territory as well. So there's a lot of volatility in interest rates still, but interest rates are a lot higher than they were 18 months ago. It's a very general statement to a very dynamic situation, but that's positive as well. So positive equity performance, positive fixed income performance, 180 degrees different than what it was last year. So that's all good. And the overall balance in the portfolio is up significantly as well as a result. And we'll get into the details of that next month. So that's all for today. But any questions you might have before John and I sign off?
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for good news.
Yeah, we like good news.
I'll stay on for a bit, but John,
Okay.
go ahead and I'll stay on for a bit. So
Okay.
proceed.
Okay. I don't know if for Lucy's sake, there's anything that anybody wants to add as far as things from DMTRS that they think would be important that she know. Blake, I can just see that passion ready for you to add something.
No, I think really it's just, Lucy, what questions, might you have for us about, how we operate, sort of who's around, depending on how you view this Brady Bunch style box on your team screen. What can we answer to help you to sort of ultimately make that final decision if you want to join this committee on we usually meet monthly, and I don't know if we have officially stated, but I think our cadence is the second Wednesdays at 4 o'clock for typically an hour.
I do think there is one thing that you should know, and that is we are actively working to shut down the plan eventually. So we are no longer taking new members. So the people who are in it now are the people who are in it now, and that's the end of the road.
Yeah, that's helpful. Brad gave me a little bit of a background on the plan and sent me the plan docs, but yeah, that's good information to know.
Well, feel free to jump in with any questions throughout, and we'll try to keep you as informed as we can. And if there's anything additional that you want that you feel like, you're not getting from information from these meetings, please reach out to me and I'm happy to share any information. Or if you want to, we can set up a time that you and I could meet even and go through some further information on the Des Moines Teachers Plan.
Great, thank you.
I was late getting on, but did we kind of go around the horn or give her an overview of like committee structure and introduce people?
We didn't introduce everybody, so we probably should do that, Brad. I'll start in the order I see them on my screen. So that would be Doug.
I'm Doug Smith. One of the great things about this plan, Lucy, is the teachers union appoints members. Well, they don't. The DMEA president has an ex officio seat on this Des Moines teacher retirement plan, and it's just unique being the only school district in the state left with a pension plan. Everybody else fits into IPERS. And as Jessica said, we've done a lot of work over the years and have closed the plan to new participants, but just working to ensure that there is a decent benefit for retirement when the actives get to retirement, and that we take care of our retired members currently receiving the benefits. So welcome, and hopefully we don't scare you off, but you're an actuary, so you'll fit right in.
Okay, Melissa.
All right. Hi, I'm Melissa Spencer. So I'm a community member now as well, but I taught in the Des Moines Public Schools for 12 years and was a DMEA president for 2 years. So, and then after I had my daughter, I stayed home for a year, and now I teach physics part-time at Drake. So I'm happy to still help out on the committee.
Jessica.
Hello, I'm Jessica Gogarty. I'm the Director of Advanced Learning for Des Moines Public Schools, and I represent the actives. I've been a member of the committee for a while, for a long time, decades.
Blake.
Longest serving current member?
Yeah.
I think so. You were here when I came on board.
And me.
Jessica gets the title. I'm Blake Hammond. I'm a middle school science teacher at Merrill. I don't remember how many years I've been on this particular committee, but I also represent the active. So Jessica and I are the two active members, and we are elected by the active membership group. And so I can't remember, Jessica. I think you have the longer of the terms. I think you're up in 2 years and I'm up in 1 year. And then we actually have a vacancy that I hope, cross our fingers, that an active member will fill in August or September, so that we function then with 3 active representatives of the 11 spots that are sort of the voting members of the committee, although we're usually fairly loose in terms of votes and some of those parliamentary procedure until we have to be specific, or we want that sort of recorded, who voted what direction.
Barb?
Hi, I'm Barb Callaghan Mitchell. I'm a representative for the retired group, and I've been on the committee since 2018 and didn't know much about the plan I was in, and I've certainly learned an awful lot since I joined.
Let's see, who else do I have here? Alan already introduced himself. Alan is with BTC, who does our investments. And let's see, Rich.
There we go. Yes, my name's Richard Bright. I worked in the district for 36 years, 30 of which was without air conditioning. Just to let you know. A nice hot metal shop and wood shop, but hey, I'm not saying a word. I'm part of the retired members of this committee, and we're working through some stuff over the past year. And that's about all I can add to it.
All right, and then we also have on the line Catherine.
Hello, my name is Catherine Binkin. I'm a shareholder in the Allers and Cooney law firm, also based in Des Moines. I have been working with this plan for 4 or 5 years, and prior to that, one of my partners was responsible for it, and I'm going to have a little update on our plan document in just a moment.
Good. And then I see Matt is on. Matt, can you introduce yourself?
I can. Matt Smith, Associate Superintendent for Des Moines Public Schools.
And then Rosie.
Here we go. Hi, I'm Rosie. I'm a Des Moines Public Schools staff member, so I support the school board as well as this wonderful committee.
All right, I think that's everybody. So we function, as Blake mentioned, in kind of 3 groups. We have the active representatives, the citizen representatives, and the retiree representatives, and that comprises the full committee. And then staff representatives as well. So any other questions, Lucy?
No, appreciate the introduction. That was really helpful. Thank you.
All right, well, welcome.
Thanks.
And with that, the next thing I'm going to do on our unofficial agenda that we don't really have for today's meeting is, I think there were some questions, some outstanding questions, maybe some things hanging that we wanted to tie up with Matt. Blake, you had mentioned a couple of things yesterday when we spoke, and just that I don't know if Matt is currently working on or has answers to, but maybe that we need to see if that's something he's still, Matt, that you're still working on, or if those need to be redirected somewhere else now that your role has gone from superintendent to interim. And if that's something Dr. Roberts will be doing, or if this committee will still be something that you will be engaged in.
Yeah, as of now, it's something I will continue to be engaged in and just keep Dr. Roberts informed of what's happening. And so, so from his side of it, I think he would like me to stay engaged with it as long as this committee will continue to have me be a part of it. That's really the other question, right? So we'll need to actually pull together an 11-member vote to determine whether or not I can stay on.
All in favor? Aye, 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 aye. Okay, you're not getting
Aye.
out, Matt.
Dale, I'm here. So hope that answers that question.
Okay. And I think Blake's question to me yesterday relative to outstanding issues was where we are on, or if there is conversation around a retirement incentive for this upcoming year, and what that process might look like and what those timelines might look like.
Yeah, those conversations are just getting started with Dr. Roberts. He's, I think, is he 2 weeks in yet? He might not be 2 weeks in yet. He's getting close to that. So those are just at surface level of, and literally, like I can tell you exactly word for word is, Dr. Roberts, we have the topic of early retirement, specifically for our staff members, our actives in DMTRS that we need to talk about. Let's put some time on the schedule here yet in July and August to begin to get deeply into this conversation. So that's actually how that's gone. And so he is aware of it, but he has no depth of knowledge or historical information to understand it completely yet. So that's coming about.
Great. I think just knowing that those conversations are on the docket is what this committee wanted to hear. Would that be
On the
accurate?
docket.
Yep.
Agreed.
Okay. Other things on the unofficial agenda, the 401A, that did start July 1st. So on this July 15th check that you will be getting, if you are someone who qualified for the 401A contribution, you should see that on your check. We had 79 people actually complete the form and not do the default option. So I think that was pretty good. There was a little confusion, just so if anybody gets any feedback that they can help me in responding to that. I sent out the email. You each got, those people who qualified or who are active members got an email that said, this is your current contribution. This is, what your contribution would be on the 401A. So let's say I had somebody whose district contribution was 10.5%. They got a letter that said, this is your current 10.5. Your 401A contribution would be 0. But some of those people still completed a 401A form and expected a contribution. So I've communicated with them and let them know why, but just in case you hear anything, I wanted you as the committee to be aware, to be able to help answer and address some of those questions.
Kathy, do we have any actives that would be receiving some amount and did not submit any paperwork?
Yeah, I mean, those that didn't submit any paperwork got the default.
Will we, or can we follow up with them in some way, shape, or form, maybe as the school year starts? And the reason I say that is because I hope it wouldn't happen, but it could have happened where an employee literally finished their year by the time your email got to them. And if they are truly completely checked out, not checking their district email at all until, August, whatever that is, August 16th. I just wonder if we can't do some sort of a follow-up for those where we had no communication.
Yeah, we could send out an email to those. I'm trying to think.
How many do you suppose that is, Kathy? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, if we had 79 complete forms, I think there's only like 110 or 115, so total. So it's not a huge number. We could send an email. I'm trying to think, because they would have defaulted into Voya, but I wouldn't have a way to, unless, I guess I could go back through and pick out the people who elected Voya with a form. I just don't want to, if you elected Voya, send you an email that says it was default. No, I picked it. So I'll have to go through and pick those out. I can run a report of everybody who is in Voya and then pull out those who elected Voya. So just those who will be remaining would be those that defaulted, and send an email. And probably wait till I would probably recommend waiting until like the first week of September to send that out, because if they haven't read the other ones up to this point, they're not going to read it if I send it in the summer. And the first week of school is not the week to send something about your 401A. I think teachers probably have more important things on their mind than their 401A that first week.
Yeah, I think September would work. Kathy, can you tell me, why was Voya the default? Was there a change in the rate of return? Because the last times I had looked, Voya was not the best of the I think it was the 4.
So for the 403B program, we've always used FOIA as the default. And so we already had it set up that way and didn't have to do any additional processes. And so long as there was a target rate fund for them to go into, that's the state approved that process.
Okay, my notes, and I recall I thought we had said that we were going to default them into whatever was the best fund of the ones that qualified. So I think
So,
that maybe echoes even more the importance of, doing our best to try to communicate to those folks so that if they're happy with that, hey, there it is. And if they're not, then they know that they can go in and change it.
And so to clarify, I think in this committee meeting before, when we talked about a default option, we talked about a default option into a complete interest-bearing account. The state would not allow that. The plan would not allow that. You had to default into a target fund. And so that's what it says on the letter that went out, was target fund. And so to say one target fund is better than another is a little bit more difficult than to say one flat rate interest-bearing account is different. So
No.
Does that help at all, Blake?
Yes, no, thank you. I did not catch or see that was yeah, that makes a huge difference, and that makes total sense why they would have been moved into Voya. Thank you.
Yep, so they should be in a target fund within Voya. And I will send out something to those individuals who have the default option and just say, are you aware that you had a default option and you have these choices that you can elect and move your money at any point in time?
Thank
So
you.
there isn't a window when they have to make their choice, or you can move at any time. You don't have to stay within.
Correct. And if you opted, let's say, for Horace Mann and you decide, I want Voya, you can change it at any time. It's your money,
I
you can do
chose
with it what
Voya.
you want. So
I chose Voya because I use it for other investments.
all right. Any questions on that process? I think it went for as quickly as we had to roll it out and get enrollments. I think it went pretty smoothly. I haven't heard anything to the contrary, so we'll see.
No, I think, yeah, thanks to you, and I know Sherry in particular, who had to process and handle all those forms. And I don't know how many questions came through, but I'm sure there was more than one. And I don't know if Rhonda engaged with this too, so I should give Rhonda her props too.
Well, thank you. And I know that they did a lot of work. The state was good to work with. I did sit in on one of the informational sessions. It was a little rough, a little rocky. Just the technology of it wasn't as smooth as maybe some would have liked. And I don't know how effective it was. Did anybody attend one of those on here? I had a little bit of feedback from a couple members that said that, well, that was a waste of my time. And so that's unfortunate. I have talked with the state and given feedback and just let them know that, some of our staff members didn't feel like it was maybe as informative or as useful as it could have been, and gave them some of that feedback. So that's the best we can do on that. But again, I appreciate their willingness to do those sessions for us. And then comes the next topic. Catherine, plan document.
Hello, everyone. Am I back? Yes, I'm back. Okay. Good news, bad news. And I know you all like it when the lawyer starts with that. All right. So as you may recall, you've heard me say over and over again, don't touch the plan document. You got your approval. You want to stay an IRS qualified plan. It's a really big deal to not have that. And we got our pre-approval way back in 2007. Okay. I know you want to change the plan document. And when I went back through to add in all your amendments from these years, there are some pretty substantive issues that we may need to address. And the IRS has started rolling out guidance on what I'm calling a COVID catch-up period, where they're expecting reapplications. I count that as good and bad news. Remember, you also worked with Kevin Waddle at Clifton Larson. He is a CPA with the plan document compliance knowledge. He's retired. Mark Bierman and I have been looking for a replacement CPA that is willing to take on this work and appropriately knowledgeable in the area, because we do have a very unique situation. It's not easily replicated in any other state. So Clifton Larson sent us to one individual in Nashville. Mark and I were not particularly impressed with some work we received. It would be my recommendation this plan should find a different CPA, and Mark and I are in the process of working with Clifton Larson on that. Additionally, with the updates to the plan document, the need to find a CPA for compliance reasons, and now your 401A, it would be nice to look at that merger provision of your existing plan document, because you have the 401A option. That means we'd have to start negotiating with the state. I have not opened that door. I think there may be a willingness, because it means more assets that the state can manage, but I have not spoken to anyone about that possibility. That's a lot of moving parts. More good news is none of that impacts any participant immediately, and none of that is designed to negatively impact any participant in the future. It's purely a matter of organizing your plan document and having kind of the most efficient rollout if we're going to go through the time, effort, and expense of getting an updated pre-approval letter from the IRS. With all of that in mind, in the past, Mark and I have worked with some administration as sort of a small group committee, just to try and keep things moving in between the monthly meetings and providing updates, kind of like I'm doing now. That's kind of my game plan as we go forward. And I also know we're all crunched for time in the fall. So step one is let's find a CPA. Step two is let's make sure we've collected all amendments that have occurred to this plan since 2007. I've found 4 so far. I know there's another one at least. And I've got all of the feedback from our review of the plan document with this committee. Again, there wasn't anything substantive, with the exception of, hey, can we remove this paragraph or this provision because it's not applicable? That's kind of the easy part. That's the part I've been able to accomplish, but it doesn't make sense to approve a draft when we've got, 3 or 4 other steps to do. So I'd be happy to answer any questions folks have. If anyone knows a good CPA that really wants to do defined benefit contribution pension programs, I would love to meet him, her, or they. If you could let me know of that contact information, that'd be great. Otherwise, we do have a lead from another couple of contacts we know from professional organizations.
Catherine, my first question to you is around the amendments.
Mm-hmm.
I believe I have one from 2013, one from 2016, one from 2018, and one from 2020.
I think there's a 2013 in there.
I have a 2013.
Okay, I'm sorry. You've got 13, 16, 18, and 20.
Uh-huh.
I thought there was one more, but because I have those 4. So Kathy, that is a really good sign. If you and I have the same amendments, that's a great sign. And I'll go back through and see if maybe I was either misremembering or maybe we amended 2 provisions of the plan in the same year.
Okay. Yeah, I went through stacks of old DMTRS files and tried to find amendments, and I also tried to backtrack through previous board meetings to see if I could find approvals, and that's what I came up with when we started this work. So,
well, I'm very encouraged we came up with the same years for amendments. That's a really good sign.
Yeah. And then can you clarify when you were saying something about the merger provision? Can you explain to this group what you were meaning by that? Because I'm unclear, so chances are so are others.
I don't think I've brought this up to this group in maybe 3 years. So pre-pandemic, right? Our plan document has a provision for plan termination or merger. And with the use of the 401A that we are using as a supplemental plan because we did not want to mess with the plan document, I want to re-examine whether it's feasible to merge our existing plan in with the 401A that's administered by the state so that all assets go to one place and the administration is handled by the state under their umbrella, because I think their annual fee is very reasonable. It's $500 or $600 if I recall correctly. I have not asked the state about that possibility, but I believe the contributions we are currently at are under the IRS statutory contribution limit threshold, which would allow us to use plan assets in a 401A as opposed to our very unique plan. I don't know if the state wants to take that on, but it is something I want to explore.
So by them taking it on, if you're saying they would take on the plan's assets, they would be taking on all the DMTRS assets?
That
And
would be
then
the
do
goal.
we as a district lose control of the asset allocations and all of that?
For everything that's already been vested, for all of the assets that are already spoken for. And Kathy, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself because there's literally just one provision in this plan document that describes that. And the number of professionals that don't want to touch our plan because it's so different. If we can find a house for this plan in a more typical defined benefits program, that would be great. And again, we'd be talking about monies already spoken for rather than, like a big transfer of district owned assets. And I, again, have not looked further on that. It's just an idea.
Catherine, based on what you're describing, then is the 401A contribution and the language of that, does that need to then be incorporated into the plan document? That's the part where I'm confused by how it would be applied in this context of the merger versus it being viewed as a separate, basically benefit that is just going to employees solely because you happen to be in the DMTRS pension.
Yes, right now they're separate and there is no requirement to add the 401A to the plan document. And I do not recommend doing so. Yeah, this idea of the merger is your plan document, like many plan documents, contemplates what would happen if we're going to move the existing vested assets to have a different mechanism for administering those. The plan contemplates it. I do not know if it's going to be the best decision. I don't know if this committee would even recommend moving forward with that. But I know some of the goals of this committee has historically been, we want to close this down. This is not a business we want to be in long term. And then from a participant standpoint, it would be kind of nice for everything to be in the same basket. Now, it's not going to be as simple as that because your structure for contributions is unique. So I don't know if what would be an option in a legal theory is an option in the practical application.
Am I understanding correctly that we will not be able to complete this process of our plan document getting approval until we find a CPA?
That is correct. That is correct. And the plan will continue to operate as normal. My philosophy shared with the rest of our firm is if you're going to go through and get the IRS updated determination, make sure you've got every possible compliance and tax consideration handled. And we are not tax attorneys. That's why you use the CPA firm historically. But the plan operates in the interim as is. It's a delay, but it doesn't have an impact to the participants.
I'm probably going to sound stupid. Does it make sense for us to have a conversation? Is there a do nothing option? And does the do nothing option, I mean, where do we end up at? Because obviously we always like the premise and idea that, we've gone through, but we know that we are compliant. We know that Uncle Sam is not coming after us or hasn't sent it. I just am curious, is there a do nothing, and how would we weigh whether that's a good idea or not?
Blake, I love this committee. I do. I'm so happy every time you invite me. But come on, man, I've been telling you for 4 years, don't touch the plan document. Don't flash a light over here. Don't call attention. And we just spent 2 straight meetings going through trying to clean things up. You tell me what to do. It's your committee.
Well, and I guess I viewed a lot of what we were doing in more of what I would call cleanup language versus a redefining, what it is and how in terms of the structures, and just taking the amendments, which we've done over the years. And I'm not saying I'm right, but my understanding or my sense was that, we went through that process, we had advisement and went to the school board, and therefore, what we were adding to our plan document was fine and was still sort of in line with what I'm now referring to as do nothing.
That is correct. You are required to have one plan document. If the plan administrator or the employer puts out an alternative document to help participants understand benefits, and there is anything inconsistent between that second document and the official plan document, there's a potential for a claim, which is why you would just stick with one plan document. Now, could we prepare a cheat sheet? Sure, that's more along the lines of when we get summary plan descriptions. But again, anything you do outside of the plan document, you run kind of that risk that somebody wants to read in an inconsistency. My job is to identify risk and advise on the mitigation of those risks. So I don't know how large of a risk it would be to simply say, this plan started in 1958. This plan was amended on these dates. The plan document is housed here. Talk to the director of employee services if you have questions. That kind of thing I would not be too concerned about. I mean, I am serving at the pleasure of this committee. So I am a big fan of the do nothing option.
And Kathy and I, we got to hang out together yesterday and do some good fun pharmaceutical stuff. We had talked about, Kathy still has, she might be able to flash it there, a paper copy of an old DMTRS supplement helper document. And we were talking about that very thing there. She's going to open the cabinet and there it is. And she had asked me, and I said, to me, my curiosity is, how many members are really truly engaged in asking a lot of questions? And I would guess, and I think there was sort of confirmation that most of them just have to do with when I'm retiring, like what happens, how do I do those pieces? And so I sort of can see and can agree to this premise of like, how do we refer people to where the document is, and when and where it may be confusing, as long as we have a channel to answer people's questions. And to me, the question is just what of the, I'm going to now refer to it as cleanup, how do we make sure that our amendments are actually in there? Because like right now, the document that if I was to ask for wouldn't have any of those amendments in there. Well, to me, that's not us doing our due diligence. We're actually excluding information and sending people on an expedition through 8 years of school board meetings to try to find them. And so I'll be quiet. I think I've made my point.
Well, that's fine. I'll tell you what, I know this committee likes to maintain all available options, so here's one. Let Mark and I continue to find a CPA for you. The plan document stays as is in the interim. When we have a competent CPA, legal and accounting can say, is there a obligation under the existing Treasury regulations, which may have changed in the last 13 years? Oh golly, be 16 years. Don't tattle on me to any of you math teachers. And if not, we can stay as is and move some of those feedback and revisions we talked about into an informal document. But if there is a legal obligation, and again, I am aware of new rollouts from the IRS, but because that is outside the scope of my practice, I need to rely on another professional to assist me in navigating those. And the same would be for other attorneys in our firm. So that would allow us to kind of maintain all options. And frankly, you need a competent CPA regardless of what you decide to do with the plan document.
Catherine, is it easy enough to get a copy of those, I would say, COVID changes and options? Because I know I haven't done my homework and looked into those. And I know as I'm sitting here digesting, I have a lot of questions, but it may be beneficial to, I'm one of those geeky people that have read the plan document, of perusing those new options, because it could be a very big positive, or it could be like, no. And so if it's an opportunity, I think we should at least explore it, but I'd like to be able to digest something on my own time over the next couple of weeks.
Yes, so the IRS publishes its guidance, and where I go for those updates is a subscription service called Bloomberg Law. Again, because tax and tax law in the concept of Treasury regulations exceeds the scope of my practice area, I simply get the notices so that I'm aware, hey, we have to be aware of this and take a closer look. But that closer look needs to be done by a different professional. There is a lot on the IRS website, though. And then if you as an educational organization have access to Bloomberg Law or JSTOR or similar, you may be able to use better search features. There appears to be some questions here.
Yeah, so my question, so I'm the one who had my hand raised, is I know Jim Treadway, before the May 31st meeting, which I think I missed, mentioned that we still have that summary plan description posted on the Des Moines Schools website. So, if that's going to be an issue, if that conflicts at all with our plan document, as you said, like having those two separate things could raise some claims, we may want to look at updating that part of the Des Moines Schools website so we don't expose ourselves to that risk. And so I'm married to a lawyer too, so I'll have to see if he gets access to Bloomberg Law.
Thank you. Thank you for mentioning that. And there's nothing wrong with having both a plan document and a summary plan description. That's common. Those of you that have like a cafeteria plan or health insurance have a similar arrangement. Typically, when you change a plan document, that's when you would go look at the summary plan description. So I'm not particularly concerned about our existing practice. But I really do appreciate that is on the radar. And I think our joint goal, regardless of how we get there, is, do the participants understand this plan?
So going to the plan document, I have a procedural question. There's a lot of reference to code sections in the plan document. One is around the required minimum distribution. And it lists the code section, but it also references age 70 and a half. Well, that has changed. So I have financial planners contacting me and saying, are you going by the new? I would think yes, because it references the code section, even though the age is in the plan document is outdated, that the changes in the code section would supersede. Is that a correct assumption?
Yes, that's a correct assumption, Kathy, and we can go through some of those individual inquiries where that you are getting separately. I think to illustrate that point, though, one of the sections you folks had asked me to look into was about the annual contribution rate for. Hang on, I literally was just reviewing this morning, and I want to give you the code section. I apologize, but in your current plan document, it lists $200,000. Maybe I'll just Control F that number. I thought it listed $200,000. Okay, yes. So it says effective plan years beginning after December 31, 1988. The annual compensation of each participant shall be taken into account under the plan. For any plan year shall not exceed $200,000 as adjusted. And that's the document is intended to be adjusted when the code gets updated. So in this particular section, which is the definition of compensation in your definitions, it discusses the relevant code section. So when I went to pull up that relevant code section, you know, the IRS doesn't, they're a little behind on things, right? So the most recent IRS notice I could find was published in 2020 and states that effective January 1 of 2021, that limitation is $230,000. So in 30 some years, there's been a change of $30,000 to that particular limit. We would be applying what the current law holds rather than the $200,000 that's in your definitions. And your plan also contemplates as amended by the code. So that's kind of a nice feature of the current plan document. But if I'm a participant, am I going to find IRS ruling 2020-79 and say, oh, I guess it's raised to $230,000 or something? No. So I'm over here having the struggle of, we want participants to understand their plan and have a good way to access and answer any questions they have. But the plan is doing what it's supposed to be doing just over here in its little corner left alone. So
Catherine, in that example that you just gave, the change, us putting the $230,000 number to replace the old code language, would that be a change in the plan document that would warrant, you know, some of this greater, you know, scrutiny and analysis and making sure that we go through, you know, all the proper channels and processes versus creating a document that would state, hey, DMTRS people, just so you know, I'm just making this up, code section 203A on page 43 states $200,000. As of July 12, 2023, the IRS code language is $230,000.
Yeah.
Is that a mechanism to do some of the cleanup in a way that is just to provide the ease of finding what you just said, and not going down the road then of changing the document that then creates that those other levels of action?
Yeah. Technically, any revisions to the core plan document, the IRS should be notified of those updates. Now, we can use lots of language like no substantive terms have been changed, no benefits have been altered. These are like code corrections, Scrivener type of error updates. We can say all those things and it will probably be okay. I have, and that's the thing is I don't want to be the worry wart over here. But technically, yes, if we are changing the core plan document, which is the document that many of the participants received initially, we have notification obligations, not only to the IRS, but to participants. And, it's not that that's necessarily a big deal, but right now we have, an IRS approved plan that is consistent with state law and that is not replicated anywhere else in the country, so far as I know.
And you may not have the answer to this now, and this may be an answer that you want to send more to Kathy, but could you think about, or maybe what are we talking about the expense to do this work? Because in my mind, I truly have viewed all of this the last couple months as cleanup and clarification and just attempting to make this more user-friendly. And I haven't viewed anything as a substantive change.
Right.
And to me, if we're going to end up spending not only resources, our time, which is valuable, and then we're going to add on money, and ultimately at the end, all you get is a cleaned up document that doesn't change anything for the average retired member, active member, inactive, that for me is one where I go, ooh, we have gone down this road, and I guess maybe we have found our dead end here on July 12th.
Okay. Yes. And I'm, as far as expenses, besides legal and CPA, I'm trying to find the last time that we went through the service. There's a form document that we have to provide. The last time you had to write the service about compliance was in 2016. And the service isn't there to kind of play gotcha games. My partner replied to the service in January of 2016 with it looks like we've got a form for the plan determination letter request and the cost of $2,500 and 3 other IRS forms that don't have a filing fee associated with them. So the cost to the IRS is $2,500. I would not say that is unreasonable. Cost for legal and the CPA and the time this committee is spending, I think you're a public entity and you should be aware of that. Because yes, it's a 50+ page document that's been around for over 50 years. It requires a lot of attention because again, anything you tweak when your goal is you're just trying to be a little more user-friendly, you don't want to inadvertently create an issue that didn't previously exist.
Okay. Go ahead.
That was my puppy.
Okay.
She gets very irritated when I talk about Treasury regulations for too long.
Smart dog. So kind of what I'm hearing maybe in summary is we'd be best to leave everything alone, attach the amendments to the back of the existing plan document and call it good, and put a note in there that, some of this language may be confusing or, to you, if you have questions, please reach out to Kathy McKay, Director of Employee Services.
Yeah, that's my recommendation for now. Again, Mark and I are going to continue to find you a Kevin replacement. It sounds like he's having a good retirement, but boy, do we miss him. And I have, just like I pulled up Mark's letter from 2016 to the service, all of my notes and red lines on the plan document is secured within our firm's client communications. So, and we have our own ethical data security and backups required. So between the district and my firm, I'm very confident that if there is a question in the future, we can locate those red line versions.
And Blake, are you comfortable that we are going to change our policies and our practices, not our policies, but change our practices to be more in compliance with what our policy dictates. So I've heard you use the phrase compliance.
I think for us, we're going to have to, go back through some of those just operational things that don't affect the day-to-day member, but does affect the operation of like this committee and how and what we do. It may not get changed, in the actual plan document, but I just think for our purposes, like we have to be clear about we're telling members that we're having a meeting, we're telling members that this is their opportunity to elect. We're telling, because that's the document that's there. Is I think we just need to be more clear. I think maybe the annual meeting gives us that opportunity to be clearer in exactly what's going to happen. And if it does happen to shift a little bit away from what's in the plan document, that we explain it. If members don't like that, they will vote all of us out. And,
Well,
and that's the part of this that is good, is that they have that opportunity to do that. So and I apologize all the way through and through if I led us down this dead end road, because I truly viewed this from day one as cleanup, as creating a more accurate document. But I certainly don't want to. I mean, we're putting ourselves in a line of jeopardy here that is not worth it. I mean, it's not worth the updates.
And Jessica, if I could maybe give you another example, I'm a big believer in examples. Your plan document refers to the administrator of the plan as the director of human resources. That is not the job title. Elsewhere, the plan defines the administrator as the official appointed by the board. So even though the document would appear to say it's the director of human resources, excuse me, elsewhere in the plan document, you're still in compliance because the board has still appointed an official. It would be a lot cleaner if we could update that. However, you're not out of compliance in the context of, are you following your plan document? It's more, what if somebody comes to us and says, where's the director of human resources?
I just want to make sure that we didn't, that we addressed the concerns that brought us to this point without jeopardizing our plan. That's where I'm at.
I think
that's why I'm asking Blake specifically. Blake, do you have any concerns that we need to address as a committee so that anything that came up in our discovery of sorting through this document, that we need to change in our behaviors so we're in better compliance with the intention of the document?
I think us proceeding forward with, maintaining where we are, taking down any supplemental, support DMTRS documents that are out there and making sure that those are not accessible and applicable, I think is important. I think going through the process, hopefully it raised our attention to some of those pieces and parts about who does what, election processes and procedures, and that if we, through this meeting process and channel, through minutes that we would publish, or even the video recordings, I think at the annual meeting, I think the more that we can put out there exactly what we're doing on those things that, for me, when I casually spend a lovely afternoon reading the plan document, I stop and I go, that's not really exactly what's going on. But I appreciate Catherine's point, because I would actually echo that there was never a point where I read something and just went, holy buckets, we're just completely, it's just the inconsistency of the language. But ultimately, the document does a really great job that everything always goes back to the board of directors and the decisions that they've made, and they've always made the ultimate, vote to what we're doing. So I have no hesitation in us saying, let's sort of pause. Let's let, Catherine come back to us, if she comes across, other expertise, resources, pieces, or parts that makes us come back into this conversation, then we do so. But I think the last thing that I want to do, or I think any of us want to do, is to put us in a line where we go, oh, that's not what we intended to do.
At the risk of getting cut off because I got a timer notification, I just wanted to add in these reviews, particularly in the last few meetings, I have not seen anything that brings me concern about the actual administration of the plan. I think your committee has latitude because the plan document is about how does this plan operate? What do we do with the assets? The committee and how the committee communicates and operates, you've got a little more latitude. So for what it's worth, I think you have some flexibility in that respect.
Thanks.
Anybody have any further questions?
Nope.
Lucy, are you doing okay?
Yeah, it's been an interesting conversation.
Welcome, Lucy.
Thank you.
So I think we'll kind of wait to hear back from Catherine on the CPA search and see where that stands. If anybody has anything for next month's agenda, please submit it to me so I can get those posted. I apologize that there was not an agenda posted for this meeting. So I will work to do better on that.
Yeah, there was. You're all over this.
There was an agenda.
There was.
Yeah, it just wasn't a very descriptive agenda, I should
Oh,
say.
well.
Legally compliant, Kathy. We're doing good.
Okay.
And are we
I'll take
meeting
that.
again? Are we on August 9th at 4, the second Wednesday?
Yes.
that
And
what
Rosie, do
everybody
you wanna
has?
Just verify that.
Okay. Yeah, I can send those invites out.
Okay, August 9th at 4 o'clock. And I also still have on my list of to-dos in September is to send that email out to those people who defaulted and who did the default option, not defaulted, but took the default option. Just to let them know that there are other options. And Matt will have conversations with Dr. Robertson, report back as appropriate. And from there on, we will see everybody August 9th.
Hey, thank you.
Thank you, Catherine, in particular today. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Thank you.